Dahil binash 18 na pukaw ang pagiging monster voters, SB19 now leads Billboard Philippines poll.
What if I told you that one of the biggest mistakes anyone can make is underestimating a tin? Not because they're loud, not because they're everywhere, but because history has already proven what happens every single time people think they've gone quiet. And this week, it happened again. A few fans were reportedly mocking 18, saying they were no longer the unstoppable voting force they used to be. Some even believed another fandom had already secured the Billboard Philippines poll. For a moment, the race looked finished. Screenshots were spreading, celebrations had begun, and people were repeating the same conclusion. 18 had lost its power. Then the numbers moved. Almost overnight, SB19 climbed to the top. The scoreboard flipped, celebrations disappeared, and the same confident voices suddenly went silent. One question spread across social media. Did they just wake up the sleeping giant? But this is not only about one poll. It is about a pattern that has followed SB19 for years. Whenever people believe the group has reached its limit, 18 somehow finds another level. Whenever the fandom appears quiet, something happens that reminds everyone why underestimating them has become one of the most repeated mistakes in Ppop. Billboard Philippines opened its fan poll for the favorite Ppop release of 2026 so far, and the competition quickly became intense. Several major acts were included, each backed by communities determined to push them forward. For a while, the results remained close. Then posts began circulating online claiming 18 was no longer as organized or dominant as before. Some treated the early numbers as proof that the fandom had weakened. Others joked that SB19 fans could no longer control a major voting race. That claim did not stay unanswered for long. Voting reminders appeared everywhere. Fan pages shared the link. Tutorials explained how to participate. International supporters translated instructions, adjusted to time zones, and encouraged casual listeners to join. What looked like scattered support suddenly became coordinated movement. Within hours, SB19 surged upward. That was the moment the story changed. It was no longer about whether 18 had power. It became a reminder of what happens when the fandom decides a goal matters. People started calling them monster voters again. But the real strength was not simply the number of votes. It was the speed of the response. One post became 10. 10 became hundreds. Communities that had appeared quiet suddenly moved with one purpose. And this was not the first time. A 10 has responded this way during music awards, international campaigns, streaming events, concert announcements, and major releases. Every time people assume the fandom has become less active, a new challenge appears, and the same pattern returns. The surprise is that 18's influence is not built only on size. Many fandoms have large numbers, but numbers alone do not create this kind of result. Organization does. Schedules are prepared, instructions are simplified, updates are shared in different languages. Fans track progress, remind one another about deadlines, and motivate people when energy begins to fall. That system was built through years of experience, disappointment, victory, and trust. What outsiders see as a sudden surge is often quiet planning finally becoming visible. Some people will say it is only an online poll. Technically, they are right. A poll cannot decide who makes the best music or guarantee long-term success. But that is not why this moment matters. What matters is engagement. When thousands of people vote, share links, recruit others, and remain active throughout a campaign, it sends a message beyond social media. It tells promoters, brands, and media outlets that this audience is not passive. They participate, they organize, they show up. Active fandoms create opportunities. Engagement can translate into ticket sales, merchandise demand, streams, and international attention. A poll may look small, but it reveals a fan base's ability to mobilize. That is why the industry watches. A company does not only ask how many followers an artist has, it asks how many people are willing to act. This is where people repeatedly misunderstand 18. Whenever SB19 enters a quieter period, some assume the hype is fading. There may be fewer hashtags or less visible activity. Then a song drops, a tour is announced, an award nomination appears, or a major poll begins, and 18 returns. But the truth is, they were never gone. Silence does not always mean weakness. Sometimes it means energy is being saved for the moment when it counts. Many fans are not interested in fighting online every day. They prefer actions that create measurable impact. That is why the surges feel sudden to outsiders. The organization happens quietly, then the movement becomes visible all at once. The close race also proves other Ppop fandoms are working hard. Healthy competition brings attention, disrespect creates division. Supporting SB19 does not require attacking another group. The success of one Ppop act can open doors for another, creating larger stages and a wider audience for Filipino music. But the biggest takeaway is not that SB19 reached the top of one poll. It is what the comeback reveals about the relationship between SB19 and 18. Years into the group's career, the fans remain deeply invested. That is rare. Many artists receive explosive attention during one viral period, only to watch engagement slowly disappear. SB19's support has survived beyond individual songs and trends because the connection was built on something more durable: trust. The members consistently acknowledge the fandom, and the fandom repeatedly returns that support. When SB19 faces a challenge, 18 treats it as something shared. When the group reaches a breakthrough, fans feel they helped build the road toward it. That connection comes from history. Watching the group struggle, defending them when few people believed, and celebrating doors opening that once seemed permanently closed. That is why one poll can feel much bigger than a poll. It becomes another chapter in the same story. People doubt, 18 organizes, the numbers move, and the conversation changes. So, did people underestimate 18 again? It certainly appears that way. But the real lesson is not about humiliating another fandom or proving critics wrong. It is about understanding why 18 continues to matter. Consistency, organization, patience, dedication, and the ability to move together when the moment demands it. The fandom may not be the loudest every day, but when the signal is given, they respond. That is what makes them dangerous in any voting race. Not noise, not arguments, coordination. And if this latest surge proves anything, it is that the so-called sleeping giant was never truly asleep. It was simply waiting for a reason to stand up. Now, the bigger question is not whether 18 can still dominate a poll. The bigger question is what happens when this same organization is applied to SB19's next global release, international tour, or major breakthrough. Because one flip scoreboard created a conversation, the next move could create history. Is 18 still Ppop's strongest voting fandom, or is another fandom ready to challenge that crown? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dive stories about SB19, 18, and the biggest shifts shaping Ppop.